All right, folks. So the next thing that we are going to look at in class is this idea of rhetoric, and we're going to dive more closely into ethos, pathos, and logos. Um, you've probably heard these phrases before, which is fine, which is great. This will be review for you. But if you haven't, if this is the first time that you're hearing them, that's also fine. Uh, you'll all become experts at this by the time we are done here. So, my only request of you right now is to take some notes, pause the video if you need to copy things down on the slide. Um, I'm going to try to keep this video down to about 15 minutes so that we don't get overloaded with too many things. So, anyway, let's get started. So the first thing that we need to decide is, or talk about, is what rhetoric is. Um, so you're going to want to copy this definition down. But the question of what is rhetoric? And rhetoric is the art of effective or persuasive speaking, writing, and it's especially the use of figures of speech and other compositional techniques that uh, convince your audience of something. And it's also super important to remember uh, this all goes along with this idea of how powerful language is and that it is used for a variety of purposes. Um, if you think about it, both nonfiction and fiction can be used as rhetoric, which is writing that has a specific audience and a specific purpose, and it is effective in getting its message across. So if a piece of fiction is making you feel sad because of the language it uses and the tone and the mood, that's part of rhetoric. Um, if a persuasive essay or a news article makes you frustrated or sad because of the language they use, that is rhetoric. Um, so this isn't just a nonfiction thing, but we are going to focus on nonfiction for this part of the class. So, all right, so these are our learning targets. Basically, we're just going to look at how claims are developed, what the point of view or the purpose of stories or articles are, how they use rhetoric to uh, strengthen their message, and how language functions in different contexts. So looking at what words are used and how they are used is analyzing rhetoric. And that's what we're going to be focusing on from this point out. So even if you are not super confident in your ability to do this right away, that's fine. We're going to practice and take baby steps moving forward. So some key vocabulary that we need for this, so please copy this down, is euphemism. And euphemism is a substitution of a mild, indirect, or vague expression for one thought to be offensive, harsh, or blunt. Uh, those of you who have been in my class before, we talked about how the Midwest is great at this, right? If somebody says something like, oh, that's an interesting choice, or, ooh, that's a unique outfit, um, what they're saying isn't what they mean, right? If they say, like, that's a unique choice, it's just a polite or passive aggressive way of saying that was dumb or that was a poor choice. Or if they're saying something like, "Oh, that's an interesting outfit," really what they might be saying is like that outfit looks ugly. So we do this all the time without realizing that we do it, or actually we do realize that we do it. It's just we try to spare people's feelings, right? So anytime that you use a word that is less offensive um, to try to spare somebody's feelings or even like code the language a little bit. That's euphemism. So some examples of this, right? Why would a car dealer selling a used car rather call it a previously owned vehicle instead of saying used? Right? Why would a military spokesperson use the term remains pouches instead of body bags? Why do people who are trying to persuade us choose their words carefully, and how can carefully chosen language influence us? Right. So these are all things that we need to think about as we work towards understanding rhetoric better. Obviously, we're not going to have much of a conversation right now, so we're just going to skip this one. All right. So part of euphemisms and part of coded language and part of all of this stuff is this big three of rhetoric, ethos, pathos, and logos. So ethos is this ethical appeal. It's convincing the audience of the author's credibility or character. And it's important to know that, like, while you are writing, you are also establishing your own credibility. So when we are writing papers and things like that, the sources and the resources that we choose to cite and use help build our own credibility as an author. So often, things like phrases like "trust me, I know what I'm talking about," and "hey, I'm a doctor," those are things that help build ethos. Now, like I said before, ethos is not just famous or qualified people. It can also be logos and well-recognized brands. When we do our ad analysis, a lot of times people will get hung up on whether or not there's ethos in an ad. There is, because if you think about it, like the Nike logo. Nike is a well-known athletic brand, and its logo is associated with a quality product, usually. Same with Apple or the Windows logo, things like that. So logos can also be ethos. Make sure you copy this down. Sorry, I should have said that earlier. So yeah, more doctors smoke camels. This is old, obviously an old advertisement, but these are some newer ones. These focus more on celebrity or athletes to try to sell their product. So ethos can be automatic, like a celebrity or a well-known person, or it can be developed by anyone by choosing language that is appropriate for the audience and topic. It also means choosing the proper level of vocabulary, making yourself sound fair and unbiased, introducing your expertise, and by using correct grammar and syntax. All of that help build your ethos, help build your credibility, help make your work better. All right, so pathos. This is another big one. This one's usually easier to find and dissect when you are looking at ads. So pathos is an emotional appeal, or being able to persuade an audience by appealing to their emotions. Um, Subaru commercials are great at this. Right now, there's a commercial out there where a guy's washing his car, and in his front yard, it's a smashed up car, and he talks about how because he was driving a Subaru, his family survived this horrific car crash. The ASPCA commercials, where they talk about rescuing dogs and then they show all these sad animals behind cages, all of that is a pathological argument that plays on our emotions. When you're looking at ads and things, make sure that you are paying attention to colors, words, images, and phrases, because those also can build up pathos, right? Certain colors can elicit certain feelings, whether we realize it or not, right? And also, it's simple just to ask yourself, like, how does this ad make you feel? Because if it makes you feel that way, it's probably going to make many other people feel that same way while looking at the ad. Oh, yep, here's a good one, right? Like, puppy dogs are always a great way to build pathos. Babies And then our last one that we're going to look at today is logos. So please make sure you copy down the definition for all three of these. But logos is the appeal to logic, or being able to convince an audience using logic or reason. This is often associated with numbers. Uh, cereal contains 50% of your daily fiber needs, or at 55 miles per gallon, the gas mileage of this car is unbeatable. This is actually an interesting one because unbeatable, as we know, is a coded word, right? Like that's obviously used to also create an emotional appeal. But the 55 miles per gallon is a logical argument, right? It's also important to remember that sentence structure and location of information can also be logos. What I mean by that is talking about passive versus active voice. And we can talk about that more later. So the Fiesta gets 40 highway miles per gallon. That's more than 21 hybrids. Seriously, right? So this, for example, is part of our syntax, right? This word seriously is its own sentence. They are making a logical choice to do that. It's used for emphasis. Also, ethos, right? They've got this Ford logo here down in the corner. Ford is logo, or not logo, sorry, ethos. The Ford logo is a form of ethos because we know we associate certain things with that logo and with that brand name. And we got crest. It can remove up to 80% of surface stains in 14 days by destroying your enamel, but whatever. I will put a link to this video um, in the Google Classroom because I doubt that it'll work very well doing it this way. Um, so look for that later. All right. And this will be the question that I want you to answer after taking these notes. Like I said, I'll put this in the directions. So which rhetorical device, ethos, pathos, or logos, seems most persuasive to you? Which has the strongest effect? Um, and just tell me why. A lot of times, some folks may think of themselves as a very logical person, but like not all of us are, right? Some of us really care about what other people think, so we may be more susceptible, not a great word, but we may be more responsive to ethos. Um, some of us may be very emotional people, and we may be more responsive to pathos. Um, so just tell me which one seems most persuasive to you, and which do you have the strongest response to. All right, so we'll stop there for today. Tomorrow we will look at um, other important terms like bias and logical fallacies, but make sure that you answer this question on the Google Classroom because this is how I'll be taking attendance today. And you'll hear from me soon. Thanks, folks.